What's considered by many to be one of the best, if not the best games in the Pokemon series, depending on who you ask, is Pokemon Crystal version. This is the last of the mainline Generation 2 Pokemon games, taking place in the Johto region, where you go along and fight 8 new gym leaders, the return of Team Rocket, and once you beat the game, the only game in the series, excluding its sequels, or remakes rather, Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where you can then travel to the Kanto region from Pokemon Red and Blue versions in the post-game. Now this game is good, in fact it's a great game, one of the best ever made, but it does have some flaws. Mainly it's really easy if you go back and play it today, and it's just really hard to level up once you get into the post-game. However, there was a ROM hack made of Pokemon Crystal version that's set to fix this, and that is Pokemon Crystal Clear version. Particularly what we're looking at today, Pokemon Crystal Clear version Beta 2.0. Despite having beta in its name, this is actually a fully playable, complete version of this Pokemon game. And so today we're briefly going over why I think that this is the absolute best way to play through Pokemon Generation 2. So welcome to Master Trainer, the channel aimed at helping you become a Pokemon Master. And after that nice Christmassy intro, happy holidays everyone by the way, let's go into Pokemon Crystal Clear version. Now over on my main channel, Stuff We Play, which by the way also today had a Pokemon themed video of its own, I went and did a small live stream series where I played through most of Pokemon Crystal Clear version. What makes this game so special compared to any other Pokemon game is the emphasis on freedom. At the beginning of the game, you can not only customize your own character, but then choose whether you start in the Kanto or Johto region. And from there, the map has been slightly modified so that you can tackle all 16 gyms in the game in any order you want. Now that seems good and all until you realize, but wait, if I start with say Blue, who's the 16th leader you fight in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal version, won't my level 5 whatever, in this case a Shuckle, the 20 starters in the game, that's the one I ended up with, won't I get curb stomped? Answer is no, because this game has a unique level scaling system. Not only do all the gyms, but every single trainer in the game scales depending on how many gym badges you have. For example, trainers on Route 1 in the Kanto region, if you start off the game in Kanto, will have typical level 3, 4, and 5 Pokemon if you start there. However, say if you come back when you have 8 gym badges, then you'll have Pokemon for levels in the late 30s and early 40s. And it all scales. For example, we took on Blue first, and since he was the first gym leader we went after, he had a level 9 Abra. Or look at Whitney here, who despite her Miltank still being an absolutely overpowered wall, is a much lower leveled overpowered wall. There's many other changes as well. All the gyms have unique parties depending on the levels, and best of all, if you want an easy place to grind, since to keep the games more similar to the originals, wild battles don't scale, once you defeat a gym, you have an option to re-challenge it at any level as long as you have that many badges. For example, if you only have 6 badges, you can't re-challenge a gym with levels as if you had, say, 13 or 14 badges. This leads to the game having more freedom than any other Pokemon game in the series. Pokemon locations have been changed as well so that you can catch all 251 Pokemon, including trade evolutions and legendaries, including event legendaries, without having to trade with other games. For example, we lost to Blue originally, so we went to the route just to the left, caught a Poliwag and a Slugma. From there we went down Route 26, fought some trainers, went over a land bridge that now exists there, and got to Newbark Town. From there we went to Goldenrod City where we beat Whitney, and then we went all the way back to Kanto, where after getting off the Magnet Train in Saffron City, we then went to Celadon City, where for our second gym, we tackled Erica at Celadon Gym. And this is where another great thing that Pokemon Crystal Clear comes up does. You can actually change the music in the game as you wish. You can unlock more over time. For example, for the Kanto and Johto gym leaders, you can set whether you want it to be the music from Red, Blue, and Yellow, either the gym leader themes from Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, or D-made themes from other games in the series. My personal favorite is the 8-bit remake, or rather D-make, of the Pokemon X and Y gym leader battle, which is actually a really underrated gym leader theme. So we go through the game here, and we know some other changes as well. For example, they added back in Cinnabar Island, now known as New Cinnabar. However, This is a new man-made island. You can still get to the old Cinnabar Island, which has a cave on it leading to the Pokemon Mansion from Red, Blue, and Yellow versions, which has been restored. In addition to that, several other dungeons have been added back as well. Mount Moon and Viridian Forest come to mind, and it's just all a very good package. We even have the Safari Zone. What's also really nice about Pokemon Crystal Clear version are just some of the quality of life changes it makes. For example, you can set Pokemon Centers to act quickly, meaning that if you go and heal, Nurse Joy won't talk to you, and immediately after being healed, you'll be turned around from the counter so that if you're mashing the A button, you won't force yourself to heal again. This can also be done with battles, which gets rid of the such and such Pokemon appeared and throws you right into the battle screen, along with getting the so and so fled screen if you decide to run. Unfortunately, all the Team Rocket events have been taken out of the games, but to explain this along with the stuff such as New Cinnabar and whatnot, these games are technically sequels to Gold and Silver, which take place a year afterwards, and new trainers have also been added in, alongside with some backstory on existing trainers. Eugene, who is a character who pursued Suicune throughout the entirety of Pokemon Crystal version, has particularly been given a lot of backstory here, as have characters such as Blaine, but I'm not going to spoil that here. There's so much content in Pokemon Crystal Clear, and I'd say if it weren't for the removal of Team Rocket, and really, if you're someone who needs some sort of story structure, this might not be for you. I'd still say Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 are better. But as far as Generation 2 goes, there's so much freedom here. This is so similar to what the games you know, but also offers so much new that this is an absolute must play. Now unfortunately, Shockslayer, who created Pokemon Crystal Clear version, took down the official website for it out of fear that, much like Pokemon Prism, he might get shut down. However, there are still ways to get the game, which I won't be going over for legal reasons. However, you owe it to yourself. In fact, if you want to play this on real hardware using a flash card or whatnot, not only can you do so, but you can actually trade with official games. And actually, if you manage to play it on a Nintendo 3DS using a homebrew emulator, you can use a time machine to play with Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow versions, and to trade with Pokemon Bank. Fortunately, for some reason, you can't trade with the 3DS releases of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal version. That's weird, but on the bright side, if you play on official Game Boy Color hardware, it is compatible with Pokemon Stadium 2. If you can find a way to, if you can just find a flash card that actually works with Pokemon Stadium. I've been looking for one of those, by the way. If anyone knows of a good flash card that's Pokemon Stadium compatible for the Game Boy Color, please let me know in the comment section below. But in the meantime, I may be beginning to ramble on just a bit. Pokemon Crystal version, despite its shortcomings, has still aged extremely well. In fact, the most popular video I ever made on my main channel, as of the making of this video, was on Pokemon Crystal for 3DS. I love this game. It's my second favorite Pokemon game of all time. This is a Pokemon game you could easily stick 60 to 80 hours into if you truly want to see everything it has to offer. And with that, it comes highly recommended. So with that, thank you very much for watching Master Trainer. Subscribe if you want to see more great content like this, but more than anything else, I hope you all have a very happy holidays, and I'll see you next time.